What is up, RotoGrinders? TJ Zwarych here. I'll be your host today. TJ_Zwarych5 on the socials. We had a decent day today in the NFL streets. Josh Allen's stack with Diggs, Gabe Davis, and Khalil Shakir went very well, but unfortunately, I needed my cash running backs of Dalvin Cook and Leonard Fournette over on that team too. So we ended up about breaking even, but nothing big. But it's not just a show about me today. I'm joined by a phenomenal host, and a host who's had some birthday festivities for his fiance today. So make sure you wish a happy birthday to Will's fiance, Will Priester, Chief Justice. How you doing?
I'm good, man. Another day, another slate. The cool thing about NFL is you get all these slates broken up all week. So, and I guess 3 years ago now, maybe 4 years ago, they came out with Showdown. And Showdown, initially, everybody probably thought, oh, this is crazy, but it's become a thing, a huge thing. And it kind of got rid of it. And hear what I'm saying, not what I'm not saying. It kind of got rid of the Thursday through Sunday sweat. Because at one point it was a big thing to play the Thursday slate, look at the games and say, okay, do I attack the Thursday slate or do I literally just hop in the Thursday slate contest, reserve it, and wait until Sunday and play my Sunday builds because everybody just wanted some instant gratification from the Thursday games. So there was a little bit of a strategy there. Now we've got Showdown to pretty much replace, in a sense, that Thursday through Sunday sweat. So you get a Thursday sweat. If you're into college football by chance, TJ, and you get, it's going to be a time where you're going to get a Tuesday sweat, a Wednesday sweat, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and Monday. So basically almost a week's worth of football. But for the NFL, you definitely get Thursday. You're definitely going to get Sunday night. You're definitely going to get Monday night showdown slates. And so I think, in the traditional DFS industry, man, I think the showdown slate has been pretty revolutionary for sweating. If there was ever a thing, it's got everybody all on one game, if nothing else, 3 days a week. Like, I mean, the NFL should be giving DraftKings and FanDuel kickbacks for the amount of people just watching this game for Showdown. But I digress. So glad to be on with you. Agents of Fandom is in the building. And let's figure out, which one of these guys is going to be dropping the hammer tonight. And if you know, let me know, because I definitely want to get them in my captain spot. Back over to you.
I'm good with some extra sweats, extra days of the week, because I've always been a pretty sweaty guy. So I'm just going to embrace it. And we're only 9 games away from NBA. So we got lots of good sweats coming.
Buddy.
And we've got you covered at Scores and Odds, your number one place for all things sports betting. Get ready for the NFL season and NBA season and arm yourself with the best tools and analysis. Check out the new Parlay IQ, free for everyone currently. Use it to build optimal same-game parlays based on thousands of games worth of simulated data. And Will, you almost always got some stuff going on over at Scores and Odds. I got some good picks for the captain position, but before we get going, do you have any, what's your read on this game? We got a 47.5 total, Baltimore favored by 3 points. What are your feelings on how this one's going to go?
Cincinnati's going to air this thing out. Baltimore is not going to be able to stop them. And inversely, Cincinnati's not going to be able to stop Lamar Jackson. I think this is a shootout game. We haven't had too many of those. Like this weekend, it was, in my opinion, pretty lopsided games. You had some teams in scramble mode at the end, but overall, I feel like the London game may have been the most exciting game this weekend.
I spent my day watching Saints Seahawks because I'm a Saints fan.
Well, that was the shootout. That was the shootout.
That one, and it was kind of ugly, like an ugly shootout. Saints still had some fumbles, but it was a fun one. It was still an enjoyable one to watch. But I agree with you. I think this one might be the best one of the day. If I'm betting on something, it's probably going to be the over on this one. And I absolutely am excited to watch this one, because we'll start on DraftKings. We'll kind of we'll talk about the slate as a whole, but we'll start on DraftKings. We'll go through a build and we'll swap it over to FanDuel, take some QQs before lock here. But if we go over to the captain position on DraftKings, it's pretty tough to not want to play Lamar Jackson in that spot today.
I mean, I get it, man. So just from basics, TJ, just the basics. Lamar's averaging 32 fantasy points per game. Now, that doesn't mean every game he's going off, but his upside is tremendous. Like, of course, he's got a lot more upside than Joe Burrow. If Joe Burrow is going to keep up with Lamar's upside, he's probably got to throw for 5 touchdowns. Like, that's kind of and he's got to throw for 300 plus. So 300 plus, 5 touchdowns. It's how I think Joe Burrow eclipses Lamar Jackson in terms of upside. And while I do think Cincinnati's going to be able to move the ball with ease through the air, I think this might be one of the best games that Jamar Chase has had this season. Lamar is still the upside play, but you have to pay for it. And so where is the dividing line? If T. Higgins goes off for 25 and Lamar goes off for 35, who's the better play? It's really weird because you've got to sacrifice so much upside, but you get such a salary discount if you decide to go in a different direction. And this is the dilemma with every Lamar Showdown slate. Does he break the slate enough for you to have to captain him? And quite frankly, at home, I think the answer is yes. But I don't want to do that, to be honest with you. I don't want to do it. I prefer a receiver. But Lamar, his upside is just, it's ridiculous.
It is. That's the thing this season is that I've come to notice after a few weeks is there's some days that a Geno Smith is going to have a big game and break the slate while other guys fade a little bit. But Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, and Jalen Hurts have ceilings that are untouchable by other QBs on this slate, because even if you're Patrick Mahomes, who can throw for 4 touchdowns and 400 yards, those guys can do that too while rushing for 100 and getting a touchdown. So those 3 have just unmatched upsides today. So that's why Lamar's still my favorite captain. And I think we have a lot of cheap options today that we can mess around with to make it work. Now, if we are not going with Lamar today, I do like Joe Burrow on DraftKings, especially in the MVP spot. On FanDuel, I'm of the idea that I would go at least 80-90% Lamar and MVP and differentiate a couple others, but we'll get to FanDuel after. On DraftKings, I like the idea of going with a Jamar Chase, a Joe Burrow, a T. Higgins in that captain spot, but I can guarantee that I will not have a lineup on either site that doesn't have Lamar Jackson in it in some capacity today. And having said that, because we don't have Rashad Bateman in today's game, we can fit Lamar in really easily. We got Devin Duvernay, who's going to be his number 1 receiver. He's nice and cheap today. We got Demarcus Robinson. We got James Prochet. Both of these guys should get increased looks today, and they are super cheap. And one of my favorite options to stack up with I buried the lead. To stack up with Lamar Jackson today. Yes, I love Mark Andrews, but it's Isaiah Likely. 1.4K on DraftKings. This guy's been getting 4 to 5, 6 targets every week. He hasn't had the production to match yet, but he is running routes. He's a talented receiver. Now they don't have Bateman. He's incredibly cheap and not picking up all that much ownership. And so Isaiah Likely is one of my favorites, kind of
really good in college at Coastal Carolina. Really good in college at Coastal Carolina, if anybody follows college football. So I'm in. I like the Isaiah Likely call. In fact, I think if you do that, that really opens it up for you to get pretty creative here with the rest of your build, like plugging him in at 1,400. I don't think I want any bills personally. I think this is, to me, I feel like I'm running Jamar and T. Higgins today. Like, I think I'm running them both. So I like the Likely call, and you can do that with. So, for instance, you can run Lamar you can run likely Higgins, Chase, and you can still get in not Bateman, my goodness, Devin Duvernay, and still feel actually pretty comfortable with your lineup, even after that. I mean, it gives you some options in that 5K range. So I like that call. Likely's definitely probably going to does he pick up steam as we get closer because people are watching this show. Maybe, maybe not, but that's a great call.
I mean, we got 126 watching right now, but only 16 likes. So either if it's kind of seems like the people aren't liking the plays, because if they were, they'd hit that like button. So maybe it'll be you and I up top winning all the money tonight with Isaiah Likely. I know Dre's going to be in there too. We talked on the Lineup HQ show earlier, and he was a big Isaiah Likely fan as well. So hit the like button.
Here's
we
the
should
thing,
be getting at least half.
Can we talk about it the slate a little bit? In terms of non-Lamar captain, and there's a reason I'm talking about this.
And there's a specific build that I want to touch on quick, and I don't want you to steal it from me, so I'm getting it in. I'm getting it in. You
go ahead. You go ahead.
And that's specifically my favorite contrarian captain, and this can be my favorite contrarian one on both sites. Now on FanDuel, I do really like the Jamar Chase captain idea because he's cheap, but one of my favorite tournament options of captain is J.K. Dobbins. They're not going to have Justice Hill in the lineup, who's been stealing some carries. And Dobbins has been getting more and more work each week. He's getting really low owned at that captain position and the MVP position on FanDuel. And if he does end up being the leading scorer, that probably means that Lamar Jackson's somewhat disappointed. And you're getting a lot of leverage on the field by having Dobbins in there instead of Lamar Jackson. And so although Jackson is my favorite captain and my favorite MVP, one of my favorite contrarian ones that I would definitely want to get overweight on the percentage we have right now is J.K. Dobbins.
Yeah, I'm with you. I like that call for sure. So if J.K. Dobbins rushes for 1 touchdown, Lamar is still okay. If he rushes for 2, Lamar might be in trouble. Do you get what I'm saying? It's like,
yeah.
So some of Lamar's upside is in the rushing touchdown, even if he gets just 1. Because most likely in this game, I think he's going to throw for 250. I don't think he's passing 300. I think he goes for 250. I think he throws for at least 2 touchdowns, right? At least 2. And yet I think at a minimum, he rushes for 40 yards. At a minimum. Does he get the 1 rushing touchdown that kind of takes him to the next level? Because if you think about it, if he throws for 2 touchdowns, that's 8 points. He has a rushing touchdown, that's 14 points. He picks up another. I'll give him 50 yards on the ground. 50 yards on the ground, that's 19 points. And then let's say he goes 250 passing. Quick math in my head. What is that going to give him? Another 8 fantasy points somewhere up in there? 10? Sorry, I'm going to run it on my cash. So another 10 fantasy points. So he's at 29 roughly. And we're giving him fairly reasonable numbers. Do you get what I'm saying? Like, that's a reasonable Lamar expectation. 250 to 50 yards rushing, 1 rushing touchdown. That's pretty much 30 fantasy points for him. I think that's a reasonable expectation. The problem is if he doesn't get the rushing touchdown, now he's around 23-ish. Is it worth it to put him in captain? Because now Joe Mixon is probably going to end this game around 2021. Right?
So as we shift over to FanDuel, we got a couple QQs, and I think that's the one I want to ask you about next is Joe Mixon. We have not talked about him much today. He's not getting much ownership in that captain position. Appropriately owned everywhere else. I'm personally not getting a lot of Joe Mixon today. I like the passing game a lot more than the running game for the Bengals. Are you getting to any Joe Mixon?
No, and when I play Showdown, I'm pretty streamlined in my choices. So I don't like to spread out my captain play much. 2 or 3 maybe. Like I don't want to spread it out. I want a really, really tight core. So Mixon in terms of flex play, big time. But at the captain, I don't want to do it because for him to outscore Lamar, he's probably going to need 3 touchdowns. Like legitimately legitimately outscore Lamar. He's going to need 3 touchdowns unless he goes for 101 and has like 5 catches for 80 yards or something, which is possible, but that's not to me, that's not a reasonable expectation for him. That's an outlier performance. Whereas Lamar picking up 30 fantasy points, 29, it's like, yeah, that's just a normal day. You know what I'm saying? So I'm not going to have much mixing in the captain or the MVP on FanDuel. I'm just ultimate flex play, but I want him in either one of my multiplier spots.
I'm with you there. One more QQ before we swap it over to the FanDuel position. And hopefully we get a chance to talk about FanDuel, because producer Steve's saying in my ear that we're going to cut this show early if we don't get up to at least 50 likes. So hopefully the people hit over there and get the like button so we don't gotta, end things earlier than we would likely to do here. See what I did there? Isaiah Likely. What do you think about a 5-1 Bengals stack with Burrow in the captain, no Lamar Jackson, but Mark Andrews instead? For me, that's going to be a big old no. That's the exact opposite of what I want to do. I would rather do 5 Ravens and then get an expensive Bengal in there like Jamar Chase or Joe Burrow. But I can't be, for me personally, I'm not going to have a single lineup without Lamar Jackson today.
Yeah, I definitely think that's the right call. And even on FanDuel, I Lamar's expensive, but to me, hear what I'm saying? I think you pretty much go 100% Lamar.
Yeah, that's what I wrote in the expert survey today.
Like, don't just go 100%. And honestly, and I'm a really aggressive showdown player, so I understand everybody isn't going to play exactly the way I play, and that's everybody interprets the slate differently. I would go 100% Lamar MVP, and then I'd probably go 100% one of the Bengals receivers, either Chase or T. One of them is going off, like, or maybe you split it 75-75, where it's like, okay, I for sure have Lamar and T in 75 lineups, and then Lamar and Chase in 75 lineups. I can't tell you which one. I think it's Chase. That's my conviction on it, because T is kind of teed off several weeks in a row, and I just don't think teams can keep running any type of shadow coverage or bracket coverage on Higgins on Chase. At some point, they're going to have to play both these receivers straight up and say, hey, we're playing man, you just have to beat us. Because leaving T open has basically allowed him to run wild in the secondary. He's just destroying people right now. So from that aspect, I do think lock Lamar, at least 75 with Lamar and T handcuffed, another 75 with Lamar and Chase handcuffed. Me personally, I think Chase has the big game today, but I'm not willing to go all in on Chase just yet.
Well, we'll swap the screen share here over to FanDuel, and I think we can kind of pick and choose Chase and Higgins depending on the site, because on DraftKings, and the ownership isn't really, there isn't much of a disparity. And so, but on DraftKings, you have Jamar Chase is more expensive than Joe Burrow, and T. Higgins gets a very nice discount on But on FanDuel, Jamar Chase is $2,000 cheaper than Joe Burrow. I love getting to as much Jamar Chase as possible. Higgins is only $1,500 cheaper here. This is the spot that I'd be very comfortable just getting a buttload of Jamar Chase. And I think the way I'd be running this, if I was running 150, is I'd have 80% Lamar Jackson MVP, 10% J.K. Dobbins MVP, and 10% Jamar Chase MVP. That's kind of how I'd be running things today. Still getting heavily over the field on Lamar Jackson, making sure I get double, but then just a little bit of Jamar Chase, because I think he could have 2 50+ yard touchdowns, and then a little bit of J.K. Dobbins, because we see that 2.45% ownership in the MVP spot in FanDuel right now. That's just something I'd want to get at least double the field on, because if Lamar fails, that's going to be why. It's because J.K. Dobbins is having the day. And so that's kind of the way that I want to look at these things. In terms of a lineup building perspective, my favorite contrarian MVP, we had this question earlier. Favorite contrarian MVP on FanDuel, it would be Dobbins. but my favorite MVP for a single entry is still Lamar Jackson. Favorite Contrarian flex for a FanDuel GPP. We're back to our guy, Isaiah Likely. He's 5.5K, getting a ton of looks. Last I checked, he was at about 7% projected ownership on FanDuel. Taking a peek at it right now, and it's up to 11. That's still low on a showdown slate. He's nice and cheap. I love pairing Isaiah Likely with Lamar Jackson. And then you can kind of do whatever you want. I think if you make the build Lamar Jackson, and this is what I would like to do from an optimal sense, is my favorite builds are Lamar Jackson, Isaiah Likely, and Mark Andrews. You get both tight ends with Lamar. You get your pick and you get your choice over which Bengals player you want to roll with. You want to roll with Burrow. You want to roll with Mixon. You want to roll with Chase. My favorite's Chase. Great. You want to roll with Higgins. That's all good too. And then you can fill out your lineup with another Lamar receiver like Duvernay or Duncan Robinson, James Prochet. That's another cheapie I don't mind. Prochet, I'm not sure how you pronounce it, but I'm just rolling with what I heard somebody else say earlier today. And then even both kickers is kind of a last piece I don't mind here. But specifically on FanDuel, where you don't have to worry about that player multiplier, worry less about individual players you're getting in your lineup and worry more about your script. Does the lineup make sense? If this person is going off, can this person also go off? Make sure your lineup makes sense. And to me, the best ways to go about that is to load up on Lamar in the MVP with his pass catchers and then the top end weapons from the Bengals. I'm not looking to mess around with the Bengals cheapies. I want the top end guys, and then the Baltimore cheapies are who I want to mess around with. What about you?
Yeah, for sure. I definitely agree with that notion. And I'm building right now. I don't know how often you've watched this show, TJ, but I missed a showdown lot one time on the show, and I haven't heard the end of it since. So I have to make sure that I get my lineups in. And so I've literally just built my single entry stuff while we're here on the show. I like how it's come together here, and I think I think it's going to be a good day.
Yeah,
it's going to be a real good day.
I agree with you. I'm with it. So checking to see if we have any more questions. I'm looking at the Crunch Time chat on Discord, and I'm looking at the YouTube chat as well. The more likes we get, I'll make sure I am looking over there first. Steve says he's letting baseball ruin his night right now. I haven't looked.
The Mets must be losing.
Are the Mets not winning? Yeah, that's what I was thinking. The Mets must be having a tough day. They're down to the Padres 2-0 right now. But it's the top of the fourth. They still got some time. We'll see how it goes. Are you getting any Tyler Boyd in your lineups today?
I think it's wise to do so. Once again, I think this passing game tonight is going to be elite for the Cincinnati Bengals. So I'm all aboard any Bengals pass catcher. Tyler Boyd just can't pop off every game. He's got, two really good receivers on the outside. But there are going to be games like we saw 3 weeks ago, where it was him and T. Higgins. I mean, he goes off for 90. T goes off for 110. I don't know, 2 touchdowns, and Chase still had 10 targets that game. He had 6 catches for 29 yards. So I'm all aboard that. Like I'm not excluding Boyd from any bills. I just like Chase and T better. I think they've got more upside consistently. But please get Tyler Boyd in those bills for sure.
I'm kind of in the same boat. I'm currently not getting any Tyler Boyd because I'm only playing 5 lineups, but I wouldn't restrict him. I wouldn't go out of my way to restrict him by any means. If I was running more, I would definitely get to him. I'm not as it stands right now, but I am also really liking this Bengals passing game and the Baltimore passing game. I don't think this is going to be one of those low-scoring showdown slates like we've seen lately. We're not getting a 12-9 game. We both like the over in this one. So we don't have any more QQs here. So while I want to get a hot take from you, and I want to get a final score from you, and then if we don't have any more QQs, we'll get out of here early.
I'm going to go 34-27 Bengals.
I think I put 31-24 for Baltimore in my survey today.
Let me tell you why I'm going Bengals. Jim Harbaugh knows how to screw up a game. And here's what's going to happen. It's going to be 4th and 2 on the 28-yard line, and the score is going to be 10-10. And instead of Harbaugh taking the field goal, he's going to go for it. They're not going to get it. And by the end of the game, that field goal would have cost him. Why would it have cost him? Because he did not take the points, reset the field, right? Flip the field back around and say, hey, start from the 25 or 35. It's just I've just seen Harbaugh screw this up with Justin Tucker so many times. So yeah, that's my read. 34-27 Bengals. And we'll go from there. I saw one guy said 45-10 Bengals. I think that's a bit of a stretch.
That's the 5-1 Bengals stack guy with no Lamar Jackson.
I think that's a bit of a stretch. Like let's be a little more realistic. Baltimore's going to score points. Like Cincinnati can't stop anybody either right now. So I don't want to cover that up. Baltimore's just giving up a lot of yards through the air, but Cincinnati's not going to stop anybody.
Here's my question. There's a question, not my question. This is from Derek in the YouTube chat. I really like this question, and I honestly don't know the answer. I really like both sides. I'd want to play both of these lineups. Would you go Duvernay and Prochet or Robinson and Likely? And I'm assuming that's with Lamar Jackson and captain spot.
I don't want to go Robinson and Likely. I'd rather go Duvernay Likely.
That's how I think I'd want to do it too. I don't know how the salary probably doesn't line up for that because Duvernay is the most expensive one there and Prochet is cheaper than Likely. I think I would go Robinson Likely, but both of those options are pretty darn good. KZ says I'm going to go out on a limb and say 2 kickers and 2 defenses aren't going to win it tonight like they did on Thursday.
No.
I was tilting that one because I was profiting significantly, right? My top lineup has it's the Broncos defense up top, but I didn't have McLaughlin, the Colts kicker, and I did have both Gordon and Boone, and the Broncos are sitting there on the 10-yard line. I have McManus as well. They kick a field goal, I'm winning 4 figures. They kick either one of the running backs score, I'm winning 5 figures. And then Russell Wilson throws a pick, and Indy gets 2 more field goals, and I end up losing some money. So that was pretty disappointing.
So case in point with that game, why in the world were they throwing the ball anyway in that situation when they could have just run the ball and the game?
The worst case scenario, you get a field goal, and now it's whatever. They got to get a touchdown instead of a field goal, which they hadn't done all game.
Right. And let me say this too. So that game, because it went to overtime, it cost me 1 big prop card, but it helped me win all the others. So I came out extremely profitable in overtime because I got 1 tackle from Zaire Franklin. And that really took my ROI to new heights. So crazy times. But yeah, man, hopefully everybody enjoyed hanging out with us. You know, I love doing these shows because I think Showdown is a more interesting puzzle than the main slate, to be honest with you. Because you've got one game you're trying to it's really, in my opinion, probably the biggest game script DFS contest we have. And if you nail the game script, along with your salary restrictions, you're typically going to come out okay. And then it's just whether or not you're lucky enough to get the right build out of your 5 lineups or the 150 lineups that you build. You know, and so I really enjoy these Showdown shows, and hopefully I can help some people. And I'm super, super pumped to be able to hang out and talk shop with you guys.
Me too. These Showdown ones are a lot of fun as well. And anytime I get to do a show with you, Will, it's a blast for me. So we're going to have to link back up for a Food for Thought pod. We're 1 minute away from lock, so make sure you get your lineups in here. Hit the like button before you go. But Chief, tell the people what where they can find the Food for Thought pod and what it is before we get out of here.
Yeah, man, it's on RG, all the RG platforms, the app, the podcast channel, you name it, it's there. Myself, and Justin Carlucci tried to bring it every week and make it a little bit different, a little less statistical than normal because it is a first look pod. We just have to try to have some fun. Imagine just hanging out with us, talking on your back porch about sports, or at your local barbershop or your local delicatessen. Like that's the feel of the show. And so if you like to have fun, laugh a little bit, talk some football, then Food for Thought is definitely a podcast you want to listen to.
There it is. I couldn't agree more. That'll do it for this edition of the Sunday Night Football Show. We will be back for another show tomorrow night, Monday Night Football, with Tim and Blender. Going to be breaking that one down. So make sure you tune in. Thank you so much for joining us today. That'll do it. Peace.